Hey guys, Joe with joesphenomenal.com and welcome to another video. Today it's Taco Tuesday, but we're not just going to be making any tacos, we're going to try something a little bit different. How about a little fusion between Mediterranean food and Mexican? What? Yeah, I know. Sounds kind of weird, but we're going to give it a try, and if you're seeing this video, it means it must have worked. So without any further ado, let's get into this. We're trying to keep this as low calorie as possible. Don't forget to score the chicken breasts. Is really what you use to blacken chicken and blacken fish and steak and everything else. You can actually see the direction that you need to cut. As you can see, it curled up on me a little. I'm gonna walk on the wild side here. To save time, I've already prepared 3 of the components off camera. That would be the tahini, the hummus, and the salsa. If you want to click here above, I've got links to all 3 of those in 1-minute short videos on how to make those. Or conversely, if you like to, you can pick those things up from the store. The tahini actually goes in the hummus, so if you buy store-bought hummus, be sure to get stuff that was made with tahini because it is much better. But the recipes are really easy to make, and if you can, I would really recommend you do that. You're going to be much happier with the result. For this recipe, we're going to try to keep the calorie count as low as possible. I originally thought about using some of the Carb Master tortillas, but I came across these egg white wraps here. They're really low calorie, made almost entirely of egg whites, a lot of protein and everything else in them. And the best part is when you sear them in a pan, they do crisp up pretty nice. So we're gonna try to do this recipe with those instead. First things first, before you do anything, go ahead and go over to your oven and turn on the broiler. We want that to be nice and hot before anything goes in there. All right, for the chicken, I've already gone ahead and seasoned that. And basically it's just a combination of garlic powder, pepper, parsley, paprika, salt, and a little tiny bit of cayenne pepper. Just gonna lay those out here. I got 4 breasts here, but really we're only gonna be using 2. I'm just cooking these extra ones so I don't gotta cook for myself later. You're gonna end up with a little bit of extra stuff in there. We can just kind of rub that in right into the top here. The more you got, the more flavor you get. Typically for something like this, I would use a little bit of oil too in the mix. In this case, I'm not, because we're trying to keep this as low calorie as possible. As a result, we're not gonna get quite as crispy a skin, but if we cook this correctly, you'll never even notice that. Don't forget to score the chicken breasts, because we want to make sure these cook all the way through without annihilating the thin parts. Remember, you don't want to cut it all the way through. You just want to make a little bit of an opening there so the heat can get inside. All right, into the oven we go. We're going to have this in here, rotate it once, flip it, and then rotate it again. Okay, looks like we're ready for a little turn here. The reason we turn these around like this is to make sure everything cooks evenly. If you've got a convection oven, you might be able to avoid that a little bit.
Day 2.
Okay, looks like we're ready for a flip. And we are. These are gonna come out looking pretty dark. Don't worry about that because there's paprika and cayenne pepper on these, and that is really what you use to blacken chicken and blacken fish and steak and everything else. So it comes out dark like that. It doesn't mean it's burned or anything, so don't worry. All right, now after the flip, we're back in the oven.
A lot of boring math later.
All right, and we should be ready for our last turn here. Here we are.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, let's see if we can pull these out. And that looks done to me. Okay, so we can put these out to rest here. 1 and number 2. And you're gonna wanna let these sit here for about 5 to 10 minutes and rest, just so all the juices can just kinda recongeal back into the meat. If I cut them now, all the juices are gonna run out of it and you're gonna end up with dry chicken. A lot of people get a little scared of poultry because they're afraid that they're undercooking it, so they always end up overcooking it. So it's a good thing to have a nice little thermometer here. If you just wanna check the temperature, you could take that thermometer, turn it on, and then put that into the thickest part of the meat. Let that sit in there and it's gonna give you a readout of how high the temperature is. And if we're up around 160 degrees or so, then we know that meat is cooked. And it looks like we're right at the right temperature. Also keep in mind that it's still hot, so therefore it's still cooking. That goes with anything you cook, meat, vegetables, whatever. When you take it off the heat, it is still hot, which means it's gonna keep cooking up for a short time. So you always take things out just a smidge early. That way it'll cook up to perfect instead of cooking past perfect. By the way, if this is your first time here and you want to learn some great new recipes, get some cooking tips and tricks, and all sorts of other kitchen related things, then start now by subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell so you never miss a thing. For the egg tortillas, I'd recommend using a non-stick pan and also using a little bit of non-stick spray on top of that. And we'll set it up on medium heat. The reason for that, remember, these are not tortillas. They are made from egg whites, and eggs like to stick. So we need to protect ourselves from the things sticking to the pan. Once the pan has reached our heat, go ahead and throw the first tortilla on. I've never used these before, so I'm only gonna do one at a time. If you got a big pan, you could probably do 2 or 3, but I'm just trying to be on the safe side here with this thing. Probably medium-high heat is a little bit better on this. I'm gonna walk on the wild side here. Once you see it trying to curl up a little bit, that's your sign to flip it over. As you can see, it curled up on me a little, and now that I'm heating it on the other side, it's actually straightening itself back out again. So that's a pretty good indicator. And that looks about ready, so we'll go ahead and put it aside. And then you just do the other 2. As you finish cooking the egg tortillas, you can actually use a pasta drying rack to just kind of hang them over and drape like this. That way, as they cool down, they'll kind of keep their shape. All right, now that the meat's rested, we can go ahead and get this sliced up. You can see a little bit of juice there, that's good. That's just what has run out. Quick tip you can use for when you're cutting meat, you can actually see the direction that you need to cut. You can actually see some faint lines in the meat. Basically, you're going with the grain of the meat, therefore it's not tearing or anything while you're cutting it. If you go against that, it'll just rip in pieces. It's weird, but it's true. All right, now we can go ahead and try to plate these up. So first, gonna put a little bit of hummus in here, which is actually gonna replace our refried beans. Next, we're gonna add in a little bit of chicken. Then we'll put in a little bit of yellow onion. Top that off with some green onion. Next, we'll throw in a little bit of romaine lettuce. See if I can avoid making a mess here at the same time. Next, we're going to grab a little bit of smoked Gouda cheese. And we're going to top that off with a little bit of our homemade salsa. Go ahead and set that down on the plate, and then we can go ahead and repeat the process for our second taco. Once again, we got the hummus, Then the chicken. Then the yellow onions. The green onions and the romaine lettuce. Our smoked Gouda. And top that off with the salsa. Now these tacos probably won't need a hot sauce because the salsa is pretty spicy and the seasoning on the chicken is pretty spicy as well. So I'd recommend tasting that before you put any hot sauce on top. It might make it a little bit too much. Now I'm going to go ahead and plate up this third taco here. Actually, the recipe is going to reflect 2 tacos instead of 3. I'm doing this more for presentation sakes, and I kind of figured out after the fact that 3 is going to be too many because that's going to end up being something like 9 ounces of chicken on there. So they don't look all that big on the video, but up close there's actually a lot of food there. So I'll make a note of that in the recipe in the video description as well. If you have any friends that are taco lovers, be sure to show them this video, or better yet, share it. If you try out this recipe, I would love to hear how it came out. So just drop me a message down in the comments and I will respond to you as soon as I see it. All of the ingredients and the measurements for everything in the recipe are down in the description area of the video as well. Also, as I plate this up, I'm going to use a little wooden skewer here and slide that through the tortilla on all 3 tacos here. That's a neat little hack that you can use to keep your tacos together on your plate so they don't flop over. So if you're entertaining guests and you want them to look nice on the plate, you can just stick it through there, set them aside, and they'll stay put. We'll throw a little more salsa on top now that we got it all situated, just to make it look really nice and neat. I'll probably throw a little more Gouda cheese up on top just for presentation's sake. Probably a better idea is to put the salsa down first, put the cheese on top of that. It looks a little bit nicer. Now, just to fill in this little extra area on the side of the plate, we're just going to throw in a little bit more of the hummus. It's not necessary and it's not really part of the recipe, but it looks really pretty on the plate there, so I'm going to go ahead and put it on for presentation's sake. But definitely it's not needed because we have about a tablespoon of hummus in each one of those tacos. So just something to keep in mind. Wow, this recipe really came out great. It's completely different from anything I've ever had before. All the flavors in it complement each other really well, and the best part is the amount of calories per taco is really low. We thank you so much for sticking around to watch the video. Once again, my name is Joe, and I hope you have a phenomenal Taco Tuesday. Take it easy.